Hola y bienvenido al podcast de Torres Hospitality, donde entrevistamos a los mejores perfiles del sector turístico global, tanto en español como en inglés, para conocer de primera mano las tendencias, noticias, opiniones y debates sobre la actualidad, el presente y el futuro de la industria alojativa y turística. Soy Pablo Torres. Puedes seguirme en mi web www.torresconsulting.co.uk, plataformas de podcast, YouTube y redes sociales. ¡Arrancamos!
Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Torres Consulting Podcast, episode 111. And with me today, Michael Tingsager, the founder of Hospitality Mavericks, which is a consulting firm focused on the F&B world, anything to do with drinks and food. He knows it, and also the host of the podcast Hospitality Mavericks as well, very successful F&B podcast. Michael, hello, how are you?
I'm very well, Pablo, and thank you so much for inviting me here on your amazing shows.
No, thank you. It's my pleasure to have you here. And as always, I like to start with a recap of you obviously recapping your own professional history. So 25 years in the industry since you started in Denmark to your current role at Hospitality Mavericks here in the UK. So what will be those main highlights of those 25 years of career?
Yeah, well, it actually started before what you can count on LinkedIn and so on. My mom ran restaurants. So I was born into the hospitality world, and my dad was also involved, but he had a real estate business. So they both were like entrepreneurs, so into a self-employed or an entrepreneurial family. And my mom grew this business not like with a chain or a group kind of thinking in. They all had their own name, and some of them were pubs. There was cafeterias. There was like a mom and pop businesses. There were sausage trailers. There was festival events. There was like the Danish national open smørrebrød, as it's called, open bread sandwiches. And she grew that business in the first 15 years of my life. And now I had my own little business in the end when I was about 14, 15 years, while I was selling sausages on the local square every Saturday. I was earning from my own stereo and so on. But then my mom said it's time to leave the family business. And I was sent to McDonald's to work as a 15-year-old. And I was sent the interview first, and then I got the job because my mom thought it'd be a really good thing to work for Paul that has started this McDonald's thing. And I'd never been to McDonald's, so I had no idea about it. The only reason why I didn't want to go because I didn't want to leave mom and dad's business, or didn't want to leave home, maybe a bit shy. And then I got the job and I started cleaning the loos, and my mom was right. I spent more than 12 years with McDonald's, from cleaning loos to running restaurants to get into head office and people operation and other cross-functional projects, both in Denmark, and then came eventually to the UK. And I was very lucky to be part of the team that really turned around the market and learned that how you actually, when you are hitting rock bottom, how you actually bring a business back up of that size, where we became Denmark's best place to work in the end, which is unheard for McDonald's. And it only didn't happen once, it happened 3 years in a row. And McDonald's was normally number 34 or 40 on that list. And of course, funny enough, when you got your people in the right fixed in the right way, got the fundamentals in place around people, also the business results started to show up. And that was the same we experienced here. And of course, there was many things to play into this. There's not only you fix people and then everything is just jolly. And then I spent almost a decade with the Danish afterwards in the Danish more entrepreneurial environment in a cafe chain, where we took it from 3 cafes to a bit more than 23 units. Learned a lot there. Didn't have a playbook like McDonald's. And then I spent about 10 years as well as a consultant, and launched the Hospitality Maverick podcast. That's actually how we connected, isn't it? And yeah, that's been an exciting journey now. So that's what we are now. We are probably a think tank and a podcast in one and the same thing, and help people who want to think differently about the business, especially about how they build the business from the inside out by putting people first, and build businesses that do more than make financial great results. They also make a positive impact on their society and planet. So that's in a very short milestone my journey to why we're sitting here today.
Nice one. Thanks very much. So as linked to my next question, because you're a director of your own firm, Hospitality Mavericks, which is also a very popular podcast. So you're consulting, you're managing, you host the podcast. So what is that daily usual day in the life of Michael?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's very, it's been very different, like for many others over the years, because also when the pandemic hit, I didn't do that in the storyline, but actually I also launched a catering business in London I had up to the pandemic started and into the pandemic, which was actually all about the things what the podcast is about, building a great company from the inside out, a company that does good for people and for planet. And we were growing very fast. I was actually the day the pandemic hit was the day I was meant to start, or I started in the morning full time as a business partner in that, because it was needed. We were growing very fast. We had clients like Airbnb, Citizen M Hotels for people that's here was also one of the clients. And going really well. We hit something. We were different the other catering companies, and probably it was the hospitality angle. It was a human experience, just not food in a buffet. So that really, changed a lot about my days. And then, it became very, very focused on finding out what the next thing was in the podcast bit days. So my days often are very involved with, the podcast is in the center of many things, what I do. And then have a portfolio of other things I do. We're advising a couple, an NAD in a couple of places, but then also now starting a new venture up, because when you get the entrepreneurial itch, you will always find new opportunities. And that's what's happening again. And slowly we're launching a fast moving consumer product out of our catering company we had to close in the pandemic. There was something in there. There was an idea, Phoenix arising from the ashes. So it's very like a multi-string thing, but where I have to play different roles through the week. So that's normally how my day works. And then I have, rituals. Like most people have the ones to have a bit of sanity in running their own business. I have rituals in the morning and the evening. I'm actually breaking a ritual tonight. I normally wouldn't do screen time past 8 o'clock. So tonight we're doing an exception, being on this great show.
Thank you very much for breaking the rule. I know you're very, very busy, but it was challenging to get some of your time. So you were saying before that, your mom had some restaurants, F&B. Is that why you had that passion for hospitality? Is that the origin of it?
There's no doubt about it. Planted some seeds, but actually, as I worked at McDonald's, there was one thing I found out: there was some shift that ran better than others. And then I started thinking, it's something to do. It's not to do with the restaurant. It's something to do with the person that leads the team or set the agenda for the day. And I got quite interested in that. And that was why in a very young age, I became also a shift manager, because I was like, I want to learn more. And I could see from sports as well. I also knew when there was a good captain or a good coach, then the team just performed better. So I became quite hungry to figure that out more. And I didn't know at that point, but later on my journey became very clear for me. Hospitality was the context I was in, but what I really was interested in was, why is some teams performing better than others? That became to, why is some organization performing better than others? And then there was when I went to university, it became very clear for me that I'm very excited about this, because the professor gave me a book I had to write my dissertation on. It was called Good to Great by Jim Collins. And it's a great book. It's described why there's some company on the American index 500 that's performing better than others over time. And we're not talking about a year. We're talking about over 30, maybe 40 years time, and why they are very stable in their growth, but also in their returns to their shareholders, and actually are better investments than, for example, many of the big company, GE Electric, for example, that will go up and down in waves like this, where they will be much more steady. And I thought, I want to build a business. I want to understand this better. And that's actually what I took into when I joined the coffee chain. So that actually became my passion, and hospitality was the context. And I think I really thrived in that context because it was the people factor, because I could just see it was so complex. But when you got that people factor right in hospitality, especially, see the work. And also tried, I've been in short periods in other different kind of businesses, in sales and marketing functions. And there was just something about that always took me back to hospitality, even though I think my mom was hoping I became some kind of IT engineer, technologist, coder at some point, but that she thought there was a lot of money in that. But really, it was really that thing about, you know, the complexity of the people bit. And when you get like a good shift, people listen to this, probably know when you get that hotel to work or that restaurant to work, you know, it's that dynamic between the people. And I got really interested in that. And yeah, and then I think really my career and growing in McDonald's that quickly didn't make me feel that I was in a difficult hospital. I was in the best hospitality environment I could. Like, it was like a school for life. It was not just, you know, that I learned about restaurant business and so on. I learned, you know, life skills I still use. I learned as a 20-year-old on how to manage people and so on. So I think that has a lot of the reason, but it was not by accident, but the context just fitted really well what I was passionate about. And I got the opportunities. I was very lucky to have some great bosses, mentors that actually took the best out of me all the way through and helped me on, and I'm still in contact with today. So that's why I think actually it became hospitality. But I'm sure my mom unconsciously planted that seed.
Yeah. Nice. So now we pass the pandemic. Let's say pandemic is theoretically officially
Yeah.
It's reshaped the industry, especially the hospitality industry, and we focus on bars and restaurants, your expertise. So what are the main changes that you've seen pre and post pandemic?
That's a really good question, because have we actually found out how things have really been reshaping? That's a really good question. I was thinking about, you know, there's definitely, everybody knows this is the obvious one. There's something around the staffing crisis that we probably starting a bit now to understand. This is like systemic, and it's a very big thing. It's not just for an individual business. There's as an industry a lot to lift here, and there's a lot of legacy. And I think no one has, you know, are avoiding the last couple of years challenges. It feels like suddenly things that could be regional problems before suddenly become global problems. Or maybe we just become more aware because there's more podcasts globally. I don't know, but it just feels like we are hit everywhere. It's America, Australia, United Kingdom, Spain, you know, China. There's like the same challenges everywhere for hospitality. So I think that's maybe the thing I want to take out. And then I also think that the way people or customers interact with brands or hospitality businesses is different. And they suddenly have different demands. So some in some situation they have lowered the expectation or taking over. For example, in a quick service restaurant, you're happy to do most of the ordering and putting the order in yourself now, where before there would be somebody taking the order at the till. McDonald's is a great example for that. And now people are more happy about doing that and have to go and engage with the staff. And in other places, I think actually the pressure, but when you have to deliver high-end hospitality with a lot of human touch point, people become even more, you know, demanding. And I think there was a vacuum of where people gave a bit more leeway just in the pandemic and had a bit more understanding. But now I think as the pressures are rising on people's wallets with inflation and living costs, I think it's going to be really, really tough to both to attract enough customer and make them happy. But I'm not trying to doomsday, but I also think there's great opportunity in all this if you can pivot one more time within that and you have the energy that. And then I think it's really interesting to see what I've seen, and you really showed the companies that did really well and could get really on. I'll almost say that's like in hospitality, there is like there's the top 7%, if it's hotel and restaurants, they came out of this really, really well, are thriving now. And there's the middle bit, which are still trying to figure it out. And then there's the one we probably know that's going to be very challenged. But the one, if you stay the one in the top, and we should learn from them, they actually went into this and very, very quickly, even though they said, this is not good, this is bad. They saw it as an opportunity. And the people I've interviewed, it's been a lot about how they could use this period as a momentum for build a better business. So So one great example of this is a Burger King chain here in the UK, and I interviewed Tom Barton, one of the co-founders from Honest Burger, and they started spending the time on really, first of all, understanding what can we do for our people. They did that, what all great operators will do, but then they had this name over the door that's called Honest, and said, how do we live honest in the future, and how do we build a platform for that, and how do we get that to live through the organization? And they evolved as many as they could from their organization. And that's really helped them get into, that doesn't mean they don't have the same challenges. They still have staffing challenges and so on, but they are more attractive employer. They're just a little bit ahead, and they use that opportunity to do strategic thinking. And I think the one I've seen being able to do that, that's also a reality of some were not able, but really took that, almost counterintuitive. How do we talk about the future instead of just being in problem mode and solving the problem here now, but actually trying to build the future? They done really well, and you can see that now. Brands that has that uniqueness about them, they really, really understand that great brands are built from the inside out, and really are living that now. They're coming out now stronger out of this pandemic. So I think these are the three key things. There was a pandemic that triggered really a staffing crisis that has exploded. Then I think the way customers interact with brand and what they expect really has changed, and therefore you should ask yourself, I am delivering what expected of me, and do I actually know, or I'm running this on gut? Do I really need to kind of find out? And then I think learn from what the best of the best have done, because they come out stronger of the pandemic. Doesn't mean they don't have problems, but they come out stronger out of the pandemic because they really spend time on asking themselves, what is Honest Burger, for example, looking in 10 years time? What is Singerman's looking in 10 years time? How is Point A Hotel looking in 10 years time? And if you're asking that question, you suddenly start to develop really different solutions to your future. And I think that's the key thing, what I've seen right now, that has really reshaped the industry. But I think we have still a lot to see, because I think we're still going through a weird year this year. And then whatever this inflation situation is bringing us, I don't know exactly what that means. And I'm if I knew that, I would probably have a different job. So
thanks for the details. I mean, you touched one of the main points, which is the talent challenge that it's in our industry, hospitality. It's in every industry, to be honest. It's just not only ours, but especially hospitality has a bad reputation, or historically had it, in terms of low salaries, bad conditions. So now, how can we try to attract talent? Is there any way to attract good professionals to the industry now?
I think it's about the foundations. Like what I've seen in many businesses, when the foundations are struggling, you need to start there. And I think lots of hospitality companies actually started with the benefits and the compensation, the flexibility. I think I've seen people really work hard on the mental health, because it can be tough. A lot of looking at you don't overwork yourself, and I think that's really good. And I think there's a great opportunity as well to invest in your leaders in your local places, because these really determine if people stay, and make sure they are in a good place as well. I think some of the strongest brands have really, really invested in the team leaders on different levels, because they understand now the pandemic. Because people don't, in principle, leave a job or brand or an industry, they leave the leader. And I think that's the brutal facts we have to wake up to. But I'm sure that they can do much more. And I think often it comes down to that it's in an industry that's always moved very fast. And the last couple of years also been a lot of firefighting. So I think suddenly there was this staffing crisis, and we got caught a bit, because we were a bit surprised, because when they came back from the first wave, there was actually, it feels like there was potentially enough labor force still, especially in the UK, to do things. But that second lockdown really, really, really surprised a lot of people. I think I've heard the same in the US, and then there was lots of benefits and so on. But people are coming back slowly. There's people coming back into an industry. But what I think one of the key things, we did a survey last year, we've done it this year as well, but last year, I don't know the result yet from this year, but we asked if they had a formal people strategy around their business, and 72 respondents said they don't have a clear people strategy around. So it's not one to really drive strategy and business results, but they maybe had a plan, but not a strategy, because strategy and plan is two different things. Strategy, you're actually building capabilities for the future. You're investing in the future. And if you ask that on any other area in the business, finance or marketing, probably the CEO would be fired if there wasn't a plan. So I think a lot of it is also actually coming back to the absence of plans for and strategies for people and athletes that really connected with the operation and the business outcome you're looking for. So HR is not some kind of thing, function that creates, works with, employment contracts and so on, but it's really working with the talent, with the capabilities, with the training, what actually gives you competitive advantage, better performance in the business through your people. And I think that would be really, really important. I think also if you look at the young people today, I think there's like, what is that they're looking for? And I think they are looking for, in principle, they're looking for two things. They're looking for an organization that gives more than they take. So it's not just about profit. It's also about what you do in your local community or the society you're part of. Are you doing something for the planet? Again, coming back to Honest Burger, the really interesting thing with Honest Burger, if we stay with the same example, is that they had just gone out and said, all our restaurants are now selling regenerative farm beef. It's unheard about a burger chain that really cares about regenerative farming, but people know that and that make them actually want to join that business. Then also it's about they're looking for skills because they're very aware, especially young people, they need skills, and they're especially looking for life and leadership skills for the future or work skills they can actually transferable take into other industries. That may, if you make people transferable enough, they will never leave you because they know they're very unique. So our ability to train, I'm not talking about hospitality or service steps here. I'm talking about how to manage money, how to do finance, how to lead a team, how to be better at communicating. All these things we really need to invest in now, because these skills, people would come to the industry for training, because it's a great industry to learn those things, because if you get the possibility to progress and people can see that, you can really learn some stuff and maybe you hang around. That was why I stayed for a long time in McDonald's, because I was getting transferable skills, not because it was McDonald's, and I had some great bosses, but that's connected with the transferable skills because they often, that's what they do. So yeah, so I think have a great plan and be aware of what people really want and what the customer really wants, or the employees, which are now the customers. They really have the bargaining power in a way.
Exactly, internal customers. Yeah, absolutely. Good point. And now another thing that is also in like hot topic is the digitalization, or the arrival of certain technology to the industry, which in some cases is removing some roles, some humans, and now instead, let's call it machine or software, there's a tool now that is replacing that person. Do you see that also happening in the F&B industry, where it's like it's very heavy manpower, or it's happening less?
It's definitely happening. I think it really depends on, I don't think technology will take over everything. That's not what I'm saying. But I think you will look at models that's driven by cost and efficiencies, like fast food restaurants. Technology will probably take over a lot of things, and those already have. You can go into your McDonald's, you're going to Chipotle, you're going to Taco Bell, you can already see that transformation happen. Then you're in the higher end of hospitality, where the human touch is really important. But I think as long as you're aware, there's like two things to drive a great hospitality business today. It's your ability to get most out of your people and their performance, and then how you implement and use technology to do the heavy lifting, and how you find that sweet balance between the people and technology, because there will be different what everybody business need to do depending on where you are on the scale, how you're servicing the market. Are you competing on price, or are you competing on the experience? And I think because you're a high-end experience business, I still think you will need some technology to do some heavy lifting. Now, and there's a lot of, automation, especially, I think we've done a lot of great stuff when it comes to the sales and marketing, the outward, the customer facing technology. But I think there's still a lot of optimization in our operation. These efficiencies that's done with a lot of, tapping into spreadsheets or communicating in different apps, and I think really there is a big, big win to optimize the business and also make it a great place to work, because again, it makes the job easier to do. So yeah, so I think that's where the biggest gaps are when it comes to technology.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now during the pandemic, one of the items, let's call it, of technology has been the home delivery. A lot of people started ordering from home, so lots of restaurants started getting into this omnichannel sales, but it wasn't really for everyone, to be honest. And some restaurants have, I believe, I'm sure you know much better, that the more they sold, the more they lost, because the commissions and everything else. So is it has it become a bit too much, or is it really a way because now more and more people are ordering from home?
I think there's created a market, and that market has been expanded, but also I think it expanded extremely in the pandemic. But I think what I'm reading and what I'm hearing from people, I'm actually talking soon with a guy on my podcast that knows a lot about what's going on in this space. Is like it's shrinking again, and there's like a war going between the delivery companies who's going to survive this, because people are, of course, ordering less than they did before. But actually now there's still that. I think more people become aware about the convenience, so it's still happening and it's still a great opportunity. But again, I think, as you said, very good as well, is that for some restaurants, this just didn't add up, or was not for them, or they couldn't find the right delivery partner for the quality of what they did. I just interviewed last week from Supper, Peter, who founded Supper, which is for high-end restaurants and luxury brand and retail. He's still doing okay. He said, of course, the average basket has gone down, but they're still doing quite well. And none of these restaurants expected actually to have really good trade. And these are people that might, spend £100 on a takeaway, because that's what they do. But these, more high-end restaurants, Michelin restaurants in London, didn't expect to continue doing this. But actually, it seems like it's a very good way to connect with the person when they don't come to the restaurants, because these restaurants, they might not go 3 times a week, but they could maybe touch point 4 times a month with them, because now they can get delivery or they can get retail products and so on. I think it really depends on the individual operator and their capacity as well. But I think there's the delivery market will still grow, but also it's going through, my view, what do you call it? It is settling in some kind of way post-pandemic, and where it's going to end, I have no idea, but I'm sure there's probably more capacity than there is customer for. And so I think there's going to be a shakeout of some kind, or merger, buyouts, whatever normally happens when markets are hit with that.
Well, we'll see in the next few months, I guess.
Yeah.
So we were talking before about the up skills and the transferable skills that we have in our industry, which maybe for people who are not in the industry, they don't realize that you have lots of different roles in the industry. It's not only customer service. So thinking about the younger people who might eventually consider to join our industry, what are the main skills that are needed to start or to succeed in this industry?
I think it's like it's any industry, and I think we have to sell a bit harder than others in the moment. But it's that thing that if you want to be great at managing people, and you believe that's going to be, no matter what job you have in the future, the human touch, or the ability to manage humans or human relationship, and also get the best out of other people, I think hospitality is a great place to start, because very quickly, even though if you are not officially the leader, you'll have to work together with other people. I think a lot of jobs today, a lot of young people, I actually talked with somebody from my family recently, the only thing he's been doing since he started his job, since he left university, is sitting first at home behind a computer, and now so he's not really met any people. So he's really finding it difficult to integrate, because he doesn't know what it means to go to work, because he has not learned the team thing. And unfortunately, he hasn't had a hospitality job before he ended there. He's been, doing very independent jobs. I think it will actually give you these, and especially, I think those skills, as we are coming out of the pandemic, are going to become really important in the future. It doesn't mean you need to spend a lifetime in hospitality. We're going to really get these, ability to both be around people, but also getting the best out of people and yourself. Because you really, when you're together with other people, if you're listening to how other people react, the worst of you is also coming out under pressure, so you learn a lot about yourself.
True, empathy as well, with others, and putting yourself in other people's shoes. Yeah, you're right. One last question, then. Also touching on the talent, which obviously you're very passionate about, human talent and developing people. Focusing on those young people who might be thinking of joining the industry, but because of the bad fame that we have, they might say, "Well, this is not really for me." So, how could you sell it? What will be your elevator pitch for a young person to convince that person to join the hospitality industry?
I think it depends on what age they're in and what's important for them. And but I think this moment, as I said before, there was some company that saw this as an opportunity. Sometimes when things are bad in an industry or things are changing, that's actually the time to join, because that's where opportunities comes. And that's also not only for companies, but also for people within them. So because a lot of people also left the industry, which have opened up a lot. So I think actually you can progress quite quickly if you show the skills. But of course you choose an organization as well that will help you to take you to whatever you dream of. Because I also think a lot of time, young people, you really don't know what you want. So it's actually a great place to try things off. And that's actually where, some people sometimes stay for good. But I think really start thinking that might be, instead of it's so terrible to join the hospitality industry right now, maybe it's actually an opportunity, because there's a lot of people that has moved, and also for key positions there's still, and companies are not going to be structured as they were 3 years. Maybe some still are, but the company's going to work. Hospitality company, I believe, is going to have less layers and much more responsibility thrown down to the front line of the organization. So quite quickly, you can actually be part of some really, the progressive operator, I believe, do that. And I think there's great examples of this. People say there's no examples of yes, there's lots of great examples out there. Danny Meyer, Hospitality, the Square Union in New York do a lot about sending power out to the front line. You have Singerman's in San Arbor, in Detroit, and I think there's also great business here like Honest Burger that's really trying to do different in things internally, where they're trying to burn down the Christmas tree, as they said. So it's happening in small pockets all over. And if you join a company like that really cares about more than just profit, but actually want to give back to the society, and that's important for you, but also you can see they are probably the winners of the industry tomorrow, then I think it's like any industry. If you join a winner on an up and going curve, you're going to have really interesting opportunities, and you're going to learn a lot. And then, then I think you will definitely take something with you. But again, I don't think you shouldn't go in with the mindset, I'm going to do this for 40 years, but nobody does that. It's about, seizing the opportunity in chaos. I think that's the pitch.
Oh, wow. That's a great closing statement. Seizing the opportunity in chaos, and using this opportunity of that the industry is pivoting to join in as it evolves. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, Michael, that's all for now. So thank you very much for your time this late in the evening. I'm Michael Tingsager, founder of Hospitality Mavericks. Great podcast and great consulting F&B expert. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Pablo, for inviting me on your great show.
Thanks a lot.
That was all for now. Hope you found it useful. Remember that you have more information on our website, www.torresconsulting.co.uk, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and Twitter. Stay well. Goodbye for now.